Okay, my friends, hopping on here. It's me, Kirsten. It's Giving Mystical. We're here on the podcast together. And I'm just hopping on quickly to give you a little tea on the cards of the month and numerology of the month ahead. August, month ahead, month we're in. Just kidding, I'm such a slacker. The month we're in, August. Okay. So obviously we are in an 8-year. We know this, 2024. And the 8-year is really a question of alignment with the material and the spiritual. It is a sense that what is in my life, the materials, my resources, is as sacred as my spiritual practice, my energy, my prayers, my hopes, and that all things are sacred. And something about the 8 energy allows us to fall more fully into flow with the material world. So a lot of what happens is things get shaken up and shaken out that don't fit, that don't connect to our flow, that detract us, that drain us. There's a real awareness around the physical body and around the material world when we have 8 energy. There's a sense that we make peace with the wildness of our human experience, the wildness of our body, the wildness of this world, the wildness of relationships, the wildness of being here. We are infinite beings, and we come here into this little form, this little beautiful body, and it comes with such anchoring, and that can feel really heavy at times, and it can also feel really safe at times. It can feel really lovely to be in a body. There's a reason why you choose to incarnate on the earthly realm. There's a reason why you choose to be in a body. There's something about it that is definitive and distinct, and you get to experience this world in a way that is so unique. And something about the 8 years always bringing our awareness to that, and it's also saying to us, are you appreciating that? Like, are you really appreciating this earth and your body and your money and your resources and how powerful it is to be a body, to be a sacred being in the world? There's something about the 8 that really heals this disconnect or heals any way in which we've set the body and the soul against each other. There's an integration and a flow and an alignment that comes with an 8-year that's really beautiful. And we call it the year of power, and we call it the year of manifestation because being in alignment is so powerful. Taking your authority, like owning who you are and how precious it is to be here, is powerful. And when you're in alignment and in flow and in your power, manifestation happens because it makes sense. Like you're just in the harmony of the universe. And so things that you quote unquote want or quote unquote need are going to come into your life more easily. So all of that said, we're in this 8-year and now we're in this 8th month. August is a month where that is going to be on our plates. And because we're 8 months into this 8-year, there's going to be a sense of, what have I done? Like, let me look at these last 8 months and see what I have accomplished, how far I've come, and let me get clear on how I'm going to move forward to these next 4 months. 888 Lionsgate becomes so potent, it really is a portal. You really do cross a threshold into the rest of the year, into this last third of the year. And there's something very powerful and intentional about that. So the 8th month is going to echo all of those themes of the 8-year, but doubly so. There's a clarifying and an ease that comes with it, like the universe, the year and the month are playing the same note. And so there's just a intensification of that energy, which hopefully will feel really good. But if you've been ignoring that, if you have not been seeking ways to bring your body and your heart and your soul into alignment, then that might feel a little jarring. I say that because when you have the 8-year and the 8th month, it equals 16, which brings us to the Tower energy. Having the 8-year, the 8th month, and then the Tower energy echoing how those two things come together is really clarifying. Is very take no prisoners. Tower energy, we've talked about a lot of times, it's truly the card of liberation. And it's interesting because when you hear the weekly podcast, we're going to have these 4 weeks back to back. We're going to have the 4 of Pentacles and the 4 of Cups. And it's interesting how the energy transitions in those 4s as you move through these 2 weeks, because again, the same container that can make us feel so safe and be a place for us to rest and get quiet can also become a place of constriction when we're ready to move on. The Tower abides no constriction. So the Tower energy is shocking and sudden and Kundalini rising and pure liberation. So the Tower is the false structures that are built and that we call sacred. So one of the things I say about the Tower card, and I always say it, but it's a really beautiful metaphor, is that there are things we build in our lives, like brick by brick, like this is my career, this is my education, this is the way I'm gonna build the structure, the house I live in, the family I create. And then there's the things you grow, which are a little more messy. It's the term rhizmatic growth, the way that the roots kind of stretch and ache and find their way. The same way parenting, right? It's a rhizmatic process. Like you think you know how it's going to go, and then you're actually living it. It's a dynamic art. And the same thing with your career. Like you think you know, and then there's your life's purpose and the way that might be aligned or in conflict with your career, right? That's something we all have to navigate. We want to really think about when the tower comes up, the difference between the things that we are building or that we have to scaffold around or that we have to reinforce or that we have to feed our energy into. Something about them isn't standing up on their own. Something about them is a little bit forced versus the things that we're naturally unfolding into, we're naturally growing into, we're naturally blossoming into. And in this 8 month, I think that contrast is going to become very clear, and it's going to be maybe uncomfortable and definitely unavoidable. So a sense of who am I as I further and more clearly align with my body and my spirit and how those two things function in the world. And then how am I feeding things that no longer, they just don't fit anymore, or they're outdated structures, or it was a beautiful castle once, or it was a beautiful wall once, but now why do we have it? What's it for? There's something about noticing the structures that don't feel in alignment and don't feel natural anymore. And you really want to think about this question of what am I building and what am I growing? And that's just going to become really apparent in this month ahead. When the Tower card comes, always we want to be careful. We want to move more slowly. We want to take our time. We don't want to rush things. I think we're in a bunch of retrogrades, at least Mercury retrograde. I think maybe also Venus retrograde and maybe others. So there's a sense of don't rush things. The other interesting thing about those 2-4 cards coming up is that was also the message, like take your time. Don't make a decision just because you're kind of bored of not having a choice or not having made a decision. There's something about the Tower energy that always brings a bolt of energy. So the Tower can be a little bit of a short, is it called a short, like a burn out the wire a little bit, because we're learning to hold greater amounts of energy. Like our nervous system capacity is expanding, and sometimes we're going to short out. Sometimes it's like in any kind of trauma resolution or any kind of healing work you do where you are making effort and gestures towards a new way of relating, and then something happens and it triggers you right back where you were. It doesn't mean it wasn't worth it. It doesn't mean you're not growing. It just means we're trying to be gentle about how we expand our capacity. The Tower energy is when too much energy comes through the cord, comes through the wire, and it can feel like a short out. And so you want to be in a position where you're not kind of riding thin. Like you want to make sure that if you're going to short out, you have space and time and energy to handle that. People get nervous when they see the Tower card. I actually don't see it that way. I find it beautifully liberating, the Tower card. It doesn't mean on the 3D things aren't going to be challenging or get disrupted. That's okay. That disruption is right on time, and that disruption is in service to your greater growth. There's something happening right now where there's like a 3D presentation, like a little play being acted out, and you're kind of talking about and discussing that with people around you. And then there's this other thing happening that's much bigger and energetic, and they're sometimes often in conflict. They don't quite make sense. And so I want to encourage people to really respond to the energetics of a situation versus the 3D materiality of the situation. What's happening in 8 years is that contrast is getting displayed for us so that we can bring those things closer together. That is integrity, my friend. That is the idea of how I present and how my energy read being in harmony, in congruence. And right now, a lot of us are seeing the disconnect between what's being presented to us and what we're feeling, what the energetic read of that situation is. And I just want to give you permission to respond to the energetics. You don't need to explain yourself, even to yourself. And if something feels like it needs to be handled one way and that feels right and true and in alignment and integrity for you, full permission to handle it that way. So the strength in the Tower is asking us to prepare our container, prepare our wire to hold more energy. And that feels right and good. And you want to just kind of move slowly. You want to really pay attention to the body, to the material, to how gently you're treating, how devotionally you're attending to your material world. Not to dismiss it, not to pretend it doesn't matter or that it's less important in some way than your spiritual practice or your energetic practice. In an 8 year, we're recognizing that those are one and the same. And so in an 8 month and a Tower month and an 8 year, we want to really become aware of taking our time and trusting the growth, like trusting the stretching, aching growth. And even if it's not in a straight line, it's still right on time. That's my little quick note on strength and the tower. I hope that was helpful, and sending you so much love, sending us all ease through the liberation this month ahead. Take care. Bye.